Beans on Toast, and you're listening to Talk Tonight, or maybe watching it.
It's Talk Tonight, the podcast of delights, and don't you know it? Talk Tonight, it's Talk Tonight.
Start that again. Talk Tonight today.
Hello and welcome back to Talk Tonight. Today I'm joined by Jim McAllister, otherwise known as
Beans on Toast.
Beans on Toast. How are you doing, man?
Very well, thank you.
Good, very good. So yeah, you're on tour, touring your album, Survival Of The Friendliest. It's quite a powerful name for an album, especially considering what's going on in the world today.
Yeah. I mean, the actual album title came from a book by a guy called Rutger Bregman called Humankind, which focuses on kind of the history of humanity and how, even though we're always told that we're kind of mean monsters, really, if you look at it, we spend a lot more time collaborating and getting on and kind of loving each other. It was a huge inspiration for me as a person and also on the album. Great thinker, Rutger Bregman, and a great book. So yeah, and it sums up, it is that same philosophy is the philosophy of the new album, basically. So
I'd say definitely over the last 2 years when you've been writing the album, well, it's been a very negative place. I guess the opening song is about the world being a beautiful place.
yeah, I mean I wrote it just in the last year, and I mean, there's negative things going on in the world, but we can't stop, if anything, I'd already written an album about the climate catastrophe. I'd done an album about COVID, and it was just like, wherever I looked, there was like opinions and divisions, and it was just like, I didn't want to stick my oar into it. And so I didn't feel like anybody wanted to hear that either, especially coming out of the back end of lockdown. I was just what is it that you want to, what is it that matters? So it was about, I don't want to be naive to the problems that we face, especially now, more than ever. But at the same time, you have to know what's worth fighting for. If we lose the beauty, then we've already lost all the wars and all the fights. So it was concentrating on that. Did me wonders writing it and recording it, constantly. It turned into like a mantra in the studio. Came out of the studio feeling really positive from it. And the tour, being able to, at this troubled time, being able to take the show, which is like, come on guys, as bad as things are, there's still good out there. We know we're good in our heart, and that's everything that's going to get us through any of the long list of shit shows ahead of us.
Yeah, would you say it was like a conscious effort to try and put a smile on the faces of your fans rather than, maybe going into your more political side?
It was like this is what I feel like I should be doing at the moment, for myself and I guess people listening as well.
Yeah. So I mean, there's 11 songs on the album. If you had to pick a favourite just off the top of your head, which one would it be?
I never really think of songs in that way, but I'd say, not everybody thinks we're doomed, because that's the one we're going to be singing for you on your show. So that makes sense. You got the best one.
Brilliant. Why is that your favourite?
I think it gets across all of the messages of the album. It's one of the singles. It was it's a good presentation of everything I just said, basically, about how bad things are, but we've got to remain positive and keep it cool.
Has there been a different process recording this album, especially with COVID stuff like that? You brought in some new people.
Yeah, this was kind of, if anything, this was kind of a post-COVID record. Because the record, I did 2 records. One all about COVID, which was just written, in quarantine, as it was called back then, and recorded on my phone. And then another album called Knee Deep in Nostalgia, which again was sort of written and it was recorded during lockdown. So that was all done via email. People would record a trumpet part and email it. And it was done, some of the people on the record I've never even met. I don't know if I ever will, if you know what I mean. So this album, because things had opened up a bit, I was like, if you can't make it to the studio, we can't have you on the record. It needs to be human. So I had Blaine Harrison from the Mystery Jets and Jack from the Mystery Jets, who's with us on tour now. I'd written the songs, they come to mine. We spent a week at my house, kind of writing and arranging it, and then we went to a studio and had loads of musicians, kind of a bit like an open door for musicians to come in and play on it. So it was I wanted it to be very human, and like not COVID-y at all, basically.
Yeah, and Survival Of The Friendliest out now on all streaming services. Am I right in thinking you released it on your own label?
I mean, yes and no. I do, but I've never sort of made a meal of that. I don't really see when record labels are quite a different thing. I used to work with a great record label called Extra Mile. I did 9 albums with them, and I sort of knew how to do it.
Right.
So it was just like, okay, I'll just do it myself, and it was just kind of sort of like just a subtle move. I just call it Beans on Toast Music, you know. It's like it's not like I intend to start releasing everybody else's music or anything like that. But in the modern world, it's quite easy, to do that.
Does that allow you to retain your own musical creativity? I know a lot of bands I've spoken to. One thing there, because we speak to upcoming artists outside, they've only got 100 followers on Spotify, etc. They're just starting out. And one of their big fears is, if I sign someone, will I lose my identity as an artist? Do you feel like that being on your own is giving you that?
Yeah, I mean, even outside of music, I can't stand anybody telling me what to do. So I've built this shit, in a way that no one else, people might give me a sort of like some friendly advice, but they're certainly not in a position where anybody can tell me what I can or can't do.
One big band, I don't know if you're aware, called Tina's.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they had to postpone their album because the labels were just saying like, we need it out. And Mayfair was like, well, to be honest, it's shit. So I'm not going to release it.
Right, okay. Yeah, I mean, like record label versus band war is a long and tried sort of story, isn't it? I mean, my relationship with Extra Mile was always very easygoing, and it worked. There was no love lost between parting with them. It was because I put my book out, and I put it out completely by myself. My wife also really helps out. At the time, my mum and dad sending out my merch, and my wife did all the online store and stuff like that. So we got and that was, I've released the last 5 albums myself, so we've got quite a nifty setup. And during COVID, the fact that we were so DIY made us really strong, because no one was relying on us and we wasn't relying on anybody else. And we could sell stuff off the website for the whole of that period, and we already had the systems in place to get it out and get it to people, and that was how we got by.
Yeah. Would you say you're quite passionate about upcoming music? Because obviously you did do your own festival.
Yeah, very. I mean, I'm just passionate about music, full stop. Whether it be, an old great or new stuff. Just passionate about good music.
Yeah. What's the difference between being a folk artist and being in that indie rock and roll landscape, would you say? Because obviously we speak to mostly indie artists, like I said, like the Cortinas, one of these.
Sure.
Sort of thing, where you're very different in that sense, just in your sound and your personality. Do you think there's that much of a difference?
I can't speak for anybody else. I only really know the way that I sort of know things and do things. Certainly when I'm talking to sort of friends that are in bands about what they're gonna, how they're gonna move forward and whatnot, I always try not to use myself as an example, because it is an unusual path to follow. It is more like I probably would work to have management and a label around this. So I don't know whether what I do necessarily works for anybody else. It's just been a really long process for me. And I used to put on events and kind of manage bands and stuff when I just very first started doing this. So I sort of knew it from that way. And as I sort of mentioned, I have a bit of a problem with people telling me what to do. So that sort of created it a little bit. But I don't really know, because I can't speak for everyone. But I mean, I have got, travelling with 2 musicians, Jackson, the Mystery Jets, the indie rock heroes, and Kitty is from the family band Kitty, Daisy Lewis, who toured the world with the family playing music. So ask them.
So well, in terms of being a folk artist, like acoustic guitar, do you feel like it's coming back to life? Like I said, you did your festival, or is it very much still quite a niche genre?
I don't think it's ever really gone anywhere. I think it's one of those reliable things, where it's never really been in fashion. and but there's always been people that will listen to it.
Yeah.
And it's such a broad. When I first started doing this, I didn't sort of think, wow, I want to make folk music. It was more just like, my grunge bands as a kid had sort of dried up, and I just wrote songs on acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
But since that, like, it is, when I realised, okay, it is folk. It kind of folk sort of means storytelling and community based and stuff like that, doesn't it? But now it's like this year I'm playing the Cambridge Folk Festival, which is very sort of serious old English folk festival. So I'm kind of breaking into that. That's almost new territory for me.
So you also play Why Not as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think folk music can change with the times, and I think as far as someone with an acoustic guitar, with simple songs about about current events is a kind of staple in the kind of musical skyline. I can't really see why it would disappear.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. So we're going to take a little break. We're going to listen to Beans on Toast. If you'd like to introduce your song.
Yeah, Beans on Toast. I'm going to be playing with Kitty Lee and Jack Flanagan. We're going to sing Not Everybody Thinks We're Doomed.
1, 2, 3, 4. The world is full of wonderful people living meaningful lives, doing excellent things in order to survive. Every human is born with a big kind heart, capacity to have it broken in half. It's burning, collapsing. We've all heard the news. When you wake up in the morning, what are you supposed to do? It hurts your head when you worry about it. So why not sit back and enjoy it, regardless of the backdrop in your life that you're leading? You'll need a sense of humor and a sense of direction, a sense of smell and a sense of self. Listen to your heart, ignore everything else, 'cause the world has always been wild and unpredictable. That's half the fun of it. Nobody's got a clue, but not everybody thinks we're doomed. We're doomed. And that's a brilliant attitude, and there are beautiful words for everyday objects. Every day that you survive, you get a free sunset. Like it or not, you are along for the ride. But just because it is a game, don't mean you have to choose a side. But of course you've got to concentrate, of course you've got to care. When the best course of action, celebrate or ignore. I could only imagine it will end at a party. Someone will fall in love, someone leave broken hearted. Regardless of the backdrop, it's your life that you're leading. Beware of virtues and other people's freedoms. Try not to tread on someone else's toes, and follow your nose, because the world has always been wild and unpredictable. That's half the fun of it. Nobody's got a clue, but not everybody thinks we're doomed. We're doomed. Not everybody thinks we're doomed. Get down if you're up for it, or if you're sick and tired of all of it. Maybe riddled with anxiety, but still excited about what you're having for tea. For the sake of tomorrow, let's do it today. Okay, 'cause the world has always been wild and unpredictable. That's half the fun of it. Nobody's got a clue, but not everybody thinks we're doomed. We're doomed. Not everybody thinks we're doomed. Because the world has always been wild and unpredictable. That's half the fun of it. Nobody's got a clue, but not everybody thinks we're doomed.
Woo! Beans on Toast, when on the road, what is your go-to snack?
I mean, on the rider it just says healthy snacks, so fruit. I mean, it used to be peanuts, and nuts, but Zen, who's travelling with us, has a nut allergy, so they're out the window. So bananas, apples.
Brilliant stuff. What is your favourite ever show that you've played?
Tonight, the whole. at the social.
Yeah, I'm sure. How's it sold, by the way?
Yeah, all right, yeah.
Brilliant,
Yeah,
brilliant.
it's a busy room.
Who is your favourite upcoming artist?
Lewis Dunford.
I've said that to you, one of the first established this is Harry, who's the co-host, he's put this one in. What was it like working with Frank Turner, and will you be looking to do any projects again in the future?
I mean, Frank's an old friend, you know, it's a kind of an ongoing project, if anything. He produced an album a couple of years ago. And yeah, we'll definitely do, you know, one at some time in the future.
Brilliant.
If not more.
Brilliant stuff. Where can people find you on social media, online?
All them places. Just Google Beans on Toast.
Google.
I worked my way up above the food and Jamie Oliver recipes.
Brilliant. And what can we expect from tonight's show?
Simple songs about complicated subjects and a whole lot of love.
And finally, what is your favourite song that you've ever written?
Favourite song that I've ever written?
Yeah.
The newest one I wrote, which is called Work to Do.
Work to Do. Brilliant. That's been Beans on Toast. We talk tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Party, someone will fall in love, someone leave broken hearted, regardless of the backdrop. It's your life that you're leading. Beware of virtues and other people's freedoms. Try not to tread on someone else's toes, and follow your nose, because the world is